Are you tired of being overcharged and forced into paying a monthly subscription for your Mac and Windows software? Well, if you are, currently we're having a 50% off discount on all the latest Mac and Windows software, such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and much more. Our 50% off discount will be ending soon.
So be sure to text Ready to Buy, that's Ready to Buy, to the number on the screen. Starting pricing for low-end software, $100. And starting pricing for high-end software, $500.
We aim to please, so expect 24/7 technical support, the latest premium software, instant software links delivered to your email, and PayPal's buyer's protection guarantee.
We got something special today. We got my brother. That's right. Yes, Boondocks, Carl Jones. That's right. That Carl Jones is here today, producer of the Boondocks classic, producer of probably one of my favorite movies as far as comedy goes. God damn it, that's that Black Dynamite. Woo! Woo! And most recently, producer and dare I say, he was my employer on The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. Man, it's an honor to have my man come to the Godcast right now. He has a new studio that he's opened up called Martian Blueberry. We about to get into it. I know he's about to come up with something else that's culturally significant because, like I told him, he got his finger on the pulse, and everything he does seems to be just a cultural phenomenon in some kind of way. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you sleep on it, even if you learn later. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, my brother, Carl Jones, to the Godcast. I gotta bring my shit closer. What's good, brother?
Chilling, man. How are you?
I'm great, brother. I'm gonna get you on the star side. How you be, brother?
I'm good, man. You know, making cartoons, making it do what it do.
Oh man, making cartoons, making it do what it do. Let's just start right there. How does a young Black man get into the world of animation to the point where you were able to like have some real mainstream success? How did you get into it? And how were you able to merge all of these, you know, your experience? It seems like you've merged your experience as a Black man here in America in everything you do.
Well, I kind of had a very unconventional way of getting into the business. I think a lot of people, honestly, after getting in the business, you know, talking to other producers and writers, there's a lot of people that have gotten in a very unconventional way. But it always started with like a passion and a love for it. So since I was a kid, you know, I came from Fayetteville, North Carolina, affectionately known as Vietnam. And at that time, you know, it was like during the height of the crack epidemic when I was growing up, and I just seen my neighborhood kind of get turned upside down overnight. And I knew I didn't want to go that route, you know what I'm saying? And so I always had this dream to be a cartoonist or to be an animator, but I didn't know how it would happen, you know? So
now what you just like drew real good at a young age? Like what made you even feel like you could be a cartoonist? Like, so I used to draw, I used to copy cartoons and shit like that, but I was always good at copying. I never felt like I could just draw shit out of my head, like see some shit in my head and draw it. But I'm very good at looking at something and being able to draw it.
Yeah, I mean, it started like that for me too. I'd buy comic books, I would trace them, and you know what I'm saying? But then I did reach a point very early where I was like, I want to create my own characters. And I started making up stories behind them. And you know what I'm saying? And I was really into like Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor at the time, and I was listening to a lot of that stuff at the same time that I was kind of honing my skill on the art side, but not knowing I would ever bring the two together, you know.
Right.
So but you know, the interesting thing is I was looking for some way out of my situation, or at least finding, because no one around me was a cartoonist or did anything in animation or television, anything like that. So the very first group of people I ran into that actually, I guess, started steering me down a direction that would at least get me out of the hood was the Nation of Gods and Earths. You know, so, and which I didn't stay in the Nation very long, because shortly after that, I discovered the Nawapian Nation. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Malachi York and the Nawapian Nation.
Of course.
So I ended up joining that organization for quite some time, and then I kind of put the dream of being a cartoonist to the back, you know, because I thought that this was my purpose, like to you know, spend more time trying to help people and enlighten our people and share information and educate. And I didn't know that I could even bring that together with animation and making television and films until I actually was able to take a leap of faith and pack up all my things and move out to Cali and just take a chance. And that's what I did, you know. And so I had my very first opportunity was the Boondocks. You know what I'm saying?
See, it's shit like that, right? Let's stop right there real quick.
Yeah.
Because it's shit like that that makes people shit the bed. That makes people be like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like you just moved to Cali on a whim. Did you know people out there?
Well, you know, what happened was my very first job that I got was in New York. It was actually working for Rockefeller Films at the time. This is when Jay and Dame was still, you know, together, and State Property was popping, and Beanie Siegel had this idea for an animated series called The Playpen, right? It was basically all the Rockefeller rappers as babies in this daycare center that was like a correctional facility, right? So I got brought on board to work on that project. So I'm like hanging out at like Quad Studios and you know what I mean? I'm working with Beans and the whole crew. And we started putting this show together, and then Beans got arrested for attempted murder, right? So that killed the cartoon. All puns intended.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So, but when that happened, man, it hit me hard, because I was like at a place where I was like, yo, I know this is what I'm meant to do, and I gotta go where these things are happening, where cartoons are being made, where TV shows are being made. And so that's when I already had the bug from just that experience with Beans and them. So I was just like, let me just take a chance, like fuck it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
But even that's crazy, to be honest, like how that even happened, because my very first day in LA, and I was with my ex-wife at the time, my first day in LA, we're driving around, have no idea where I'm going, and I see Melrose Street, right? And I knew Melrose Street from Melrose Place, you know, the TV show. So I was like, yo, let's go down Melrose. So we turn down Melrose, right? And I see this little short black guy walking with a red shirt with a picture of Huey on the front. And it was Aaron McGruder who was doing the comic show. This is before the show. There was no animated series at the time. So like I literally
had a picture of the character that was in his mind on his shirt. It
was just on the shirt. It was, well, because at the time it was a comic strip. So when I hopped out the car and I just started harassing him, I was like, yo, I'm an aspiring artist, you know, cartoonist, animator, whatever.
You knew who he was?
Yeah, I knew who he was.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, on the way to, this is going to sound even weirder, on the way to Cali, I was reading an interview that he did in the Comics Journal. So that's the other surreal thing. So anyways, so I just like, you know, hassled him about like getting a job. And so we met up after that. And well, I sent him some samples of my work, and then we met up and we just hit it off immediately. Like we was kind of, you know what I'm saying, on the same, you know, page in terms of art and his vision for the comic strip. But then, so my first job really was working on the comic strip, because he needed some help on the strip, because he was like falling behind deadlines, and it was harder than what people think. So I started helping him with the strip, and then the show got picked up. So I made I made the graduation from the strip to the TV show once we got the show picked up.
Wow.
So it's crazy story how it happened. It's timing.
Timing, right? Damn. And just having faith, man, in your shit. Like I said, a lot of people be scared, man, to make that jump. You hear people like, yeah, and I moved to America from another country and I only had $500. You know what I mean? Like that shit sounds crazy, bro. Like really? Like that sound risky as a motherfucker. I don't know if I'm going to Philly with just $500. Like, you know what I mean? You went to a whole nother country and shit, like, and made it happen. Like, you got to have faith in your shit. So you got up with Aaron, and you so the Boondocks, that's the first thing you did? This is what you're telling me?
That's the first thing I did, you know.
Wow.
But it was dope. It was dope because a lot of the people that were working on the show originally didn't have much experience at all. I mean, Aaron didn't have any experience. I didn't have any experience. You know, there was a couple of writers that may have done a few things, but nothing really major, you know. So because we all kind of didn't know what we should be doing, we also didn't know what we couldn't do. You know what I mean? So we took risks that I think a lot of shows might not have ever did. And so we were really just trying to do something that resonated with us and that we fucked with. And, you know what I'm saying? And that we thought looked dope and was funny. And you know what I mean? Like it was just, we had no idea, I think, at the time that it would be like, you know, some kind of like cultural phenomenon or anything like that. It was just, we were just trying to do some shit we really believed in, you know?
And that's what makes it hip hop. You see what I'm saying? Like the fact that y'all just wanted to express yourself, and the fact that y'all didn't necessarily know what y'all wasn't supposed to be doing and all that type of shit. Like that shit can bring some real beautiful art into the world. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know how to like record in studios and shit like that. Like half of these rappers, they made masterpieces. They first time in the studio type of shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right. Yeah.
And it's because of the same type of premise. Like, they didn't know you're not supposed to do this and that, and they didn't know everything wasn't in key and all that type of shit back then. Like, we just did what felt good type of shit. You know what I mean? And fortunately, we did it in a way that people still fuck with it to this day type of shit, you know?
True.
But yeah, that's just that hip hop spirit. And you definitely feel a hip hop spirit in all of your work. If you know what I mean? Like I feel like coming from that authentic hip hop place.
Yeah, I mean, no, thank you. And I think it was also because the music itself was inspiring a lot of what we did too. You know, it was, I mean, you guys were contextualizing what was happening at that particular moment in time through the music. And we wanted to have that same kind of effect. You know, we wanted to have that same kind of vibe and be able to speak to the culture in a real way, the way the music spoke to us. So, you know, it was important also to have like authentic, like really dope hip hop, you know what I'm saying, in the show too, which is something I think a lot of people hadn't seen in animation. Like, you know what I mean? Where you know, because we had, I don't know if you're familiar with Big Tank, the producer Big Tank Thornton, but he did a theme song and he produced a lot of the tracks in the first season. But we also worked with Ninth Wonder and other hip hop producers to give it like a real authentic, you know what I'm saying, vibe. And no one's seen that combined with.
And I met my man, I Am the Stone That the Builder Refused.
Oh, Asheru, yeah.
I met him before. Yeah.
That's another one. And you know, and he was, I guess, quote unquote, what you know they like to call an underground artist. But like for us, we just wanted to fuck with people that was doing something authentic and that was dope, regardless of how successful they were. It wasn't about the name; it was just about the work, you know.
And that's what made y'all shit dope. Like, you know what I mean? Oh my God. Like that shit made it crazy. I mean, just in the Boondocks, there's so many classics, like just in the Boondocks. Like, so I know you had the like we all drawing at first, but then you sent it out or something like that. Is that what happened?
Well, what happened was we tried working with a lot of artists domestically, but there's not a lot of animators in the US that really understand anime. You know what I'm saying? So, or at least how to draw anime. They might be fans of it, but the kids that are coming out of Cal Arts aren't necessarily being trained to do animation in that style. And it's a very specific language that anime speaks. You know, so in the first season, a lot of the stuff that we like the storyboards that were being drawn and the character designs in the very, very beginning were a little too Saturday morning, you know, is what we call it. Like they were like, you know, old school Saturday morning cartoons. So what we ended up having to do is we had to find a lot of artists in Korea and some in Japan. We actually worked with a couple studios in Japan as well, just so that we could get that authentic, you know what I'm saying, anime experience, you know. But that presented a bunch of issues too, because they don't understand the culture. You know what I mean? So like we were running into problems, for example, like Huey. So there's a rule that Huey never smiles. Like you know, and then I'll ask anybody to watch the show and see if you can find Huey ever smiling. Because the goal was for him to never ever smile, because that was his attitude. That was the vibe he was on. But the Korean studios kept sending back the storyboards with him smiling all over the place. So we had to they wanted to basically have a meeting with us to explain how come we don't ever want this kid who's a kid, you know, to smile. And so we said Malcolm X, and they were like, oh, oh, now we get it. Like that's all you had to. So we had to explain it that way for them to understand like where his mindset was, because they can't relate to, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Now, how was it that Regina King ended up playing the voice, being the voice actor of this little boy?
Yeah, so she originally she auditioned for just Riley, right? And then Alicia Keys was actually positioned to be Huey. I say positioned.
Really?
Yeah, we had a bunch of auditions, because you know you gotta understand.
And
too,
again,
like,
these are women voicing a male role. Like, what was the science behind that?
Well, the science behind it is for one, if you because in most cases if you look at kids shows, right? So a lot of kids shows, they'll use like a real little girl or a real little boy, right? But you also run the risk of that boy like getting too
growing
old,
up, yeah,
and he starts going through puberty, and his voice, you know what I'm saying?
A man's son was on the Cosby cartoon or something. He voiced over on some Cosby. Remember the Cosby cartoon or something? Yeah. And he was like a little boy on there or something like that. But then I think he ran into some shit.
He went through puberty, and then he started sounding like Barry White.
Right.
So typically in animation, they'll get like older women to play young boys. You know what I'm saying? So she killed the Riley role. She killed it. I was saying we had auditions from so many people, because it was like the first time. Number one, the success of the comic strip, but number two, it's not like there's a lot of opportunities for a Black animated show for you to be a part of a Black animated show. So we had auditions from everyone. I think Lauryn Hill even auditioned.
Wow.
But Alicia Keys, she killed it. You know what I'm saying? She did an amazing job. But I remember Regina was like, I want to do both. She's like, I think I could do both. Right. So she auditioned, she did both, right? Like she like both back to back, like in the scene. And it was crazy. Like she literally bounced back and forth between doing Huey and Riley. And you could hear some similarity insofar as like they were brothers. So there was some
and there would be a family similarity in voices, right?
Right, but they were still very, very different, you know. And I remember she also she started studying like the Peanuts, you know, because the Peanuts use actual kids, and there's a difference between like the breath control is different with the kid. So a kid will take more breaths through a line versus an adult, because they have, you know, bigger lungs. So she even got the breath control of a kid down, and she just killed it. So, you know, of course she got it.
Wow. That's a great story. Thank you, Rashid Rassini. He said, Carl, was the whole voice cast an all-star cast through the series, or were there talented, less experienced voice actors? I'm asking as an aspiring voice actor, what are some tips for being casted? Thank you, Rashid Cassini. I appreciate your donation, but don't cut the line here. Because I'm an aspiring voice actor as well. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I would say for us, we try to find people that actually just have a good take on the character, more so than somebody that has like years of experience as a voiceover actor. Because to be honest, sometimes most of the voiceover actors, they're usually doing kid shows, and most of the kid shows are they're overacted, or they're even too polished for a show.
Where are we going, Batman?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's good to have that range, right? Where you can go to that pocket if you need it, because it will come in handy. But if you're doing adult animation, a lot of times they want more like real grounded people, you know? So I always tell actors, like, don't focus so much on your voice, focus more on your actual, like how much you understand the actual character and the point of view of the character, so that who that person is comes through more so than you giving it like a cool voice or a fun voice, so, you know, because that's good. Like if you got like a whole repertoire of different voices, like that's good. But when I cast, and I know other producers the same way, like you really want somebody that just really has a grasp on
understands the character's objective.
Right. Exactly.
And that in itself will bring out the nuances and all of that in the voice and all of that, if you really understand the scene, the script, and your character and their, you know, quote unquote, I guess, motivation. Like, you know what I mean? Their overall what they're about. Like that, like Huey's objective when you said Malcolm X, like that showed them what his overall like life objective was about and how he moved in life. So now they're like, oh, you know what I mean? So that makes everything else he does make sense.
Right. Exactly.